Today, we're diving into Jainism. It's one of India's most ancient religions, and we're going to try and understand a principle that's so powerful it has shaped entire societies for centuries. That principle? Nonviolence.
But first, I've got a question for you. And it might seem, well, a little strange. Have you ever considered why someone might gently sweep the ground right in front of them as they walk? I'll give you a hint. It's not about cleanliness.
So what's the reason? It's to avoid harming even the smallest of creatures. And that single powerful idea, that is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. Right. And that idea has a name. It's a really radical concept called Ahimsa. Okay, so Ahimsa is pretty much the cornerstone of all Jain ethics. But it's not just about physical action, not at all. You'll notice the definition there. It says avoiding harm in thought, word, or deed. Think about that. This is a complete commitment to nonviolence. It includes your intentions, your speech, everything. And that's because in Jainism, it's believed that every single living being, from a person to an insect, even a plant, has a soul and is capable of suffering. So how is this actually put into practice? Well, in some of the most rigorous ways imaginable, particularly by Jain monks and nuns. It means a strict vegetarian diet that even avoids root vegetables. And why's that? Because uprooting a plant destroys it, sure, but it also harms the countless microorganisms in the soil. It means wearing a mask, a mukhvas, not for disease, but just to prevent accidentally inhaling tiny insects. And of course, as we saw, it means sweeping the very ground you're about to walk on. All these practices just go to show how deep, how all-encompassing this commitment to nonviolence really is.
Now, to really get a handle on where such a radical idea came from, we need to rewind a bit and look at its origins in ancient India. This didn't just appear in a vacuum. It was very much a response to a specific time and a specific place.
So Jainism emerged during this time of intense religious and philosophical upheaval in the Ganga Valley. The dominant system back then was all about complex rituals and a super rigid birth-based caste system. It's into this world that Mahavira, the 24th and most famous of the great teachers or Tirthankaras, is born. He's the one who really consolidates and spreads the core teachings of Jainism, and that's when it really rises as a major new movement. And you have to understand, Jainism wasn't just a new set of beliefs. It was a direct challenge to the entire established order. So where the traditional system had this rigid birth-based caste hierarchy, Jainism just declared that all souls are equal, and they're all equally capable of achieving liberation. And where the old system was focused on these complicated external rituals, Jainism turned inward. It put all the emphasis on self-discipline and personal asceticism. So, okay, how does a follower actually live this out? This is where we get to the practical framework that guides a Jain's life, and that's the vows they take. All right, the foundation for everything is what's known as the three jewels, the Ratnatraya. The easiest way to think about it is like a three-step path. First, you have right faith. That's belief in the teachings. Then you've got right knowledge, so accurately understanding all the doctrines. And finally, right conduct. This is where the philosophy becomes action, actually practicing these ethical principles in daily life. And that right conduct is defined by these 5 great vows. And take a look at what's number 1, Ahimsa, non-violence. It's the first and most important vow. It's the one from which all the others really flow. After that, you have truthfulness, non-stealing, celibacy or chastity, and non-possessiveness. Basically, letting go of attachment to stuff. Now, a philosophy this revolutionary doesn't just stay within the walls of a monastery. It spills out. It begins to reshape the world around it, and it ends up having an absolutely incredible social impact. And it really all comes back to this one core principle, Ahimsa. This belief that all souls are equal and that none should be harmed, it created this massive ripple effect, and it fueled some truly radical social reforms for the era. So what did this look like in the real world? First, as we've said, it meant a complete rejection of the caste system. Your birth didn't determine your spiritual worth, period. Second, and this was so progressive for its time, was its stance on gender. Jainism was among the very first religions to allow women to become fully ordained monks, giving them a central role in religious life. And finally, its influence promoted a strong, lasting tradition of vegetarianism and animal rights in India that continues to this day. Which brings us to the legacy of this powerful idea, an influence that stretches all the way from ancient India right into our modern world. The ethical principles of Jainism, especially Ahimsa, didn't just stay within the religion itself.
They seeped into the broader culture and philosophy of India for centuries, shaping how people thought about ethics, compassion, and just coexistence. And this is probably the most famous example of its enduring power. The concept of Ahimsa directly influenced readers like Mahatma Gandhi. He took this ancient spiritual principle and transformed it into a powerful tool for political change. He created a philosophy of nonviolent resistance that would, of course, go on to change the entire course of world history. It's a straight line from an ancient spiritual vow to a modern movement for freedom.
Which leaves us with a final thought. Jainism shows us how a single, powerful principle can shape a life, a culture, and, yeah, even history. So it's worth asking ourselves, what is the one principle you live by?